Recent missing people cases, the case of Yungyang Zhang. Yungyang Zhang was born on the 21st of December 1990 in Fushan, China. She was a successful academic in the field of biology and in 2017 travelled to the United States to conduct research on photosynthesis at the University of Illinois. She was engaged and planned to marry her fiancé in October 2017 once her year of research was complete. On the 9th of June in 2017, Yungyang had a meeting at a property complex where she planned to sign a lease for a brand new apartment. But unfortunately, she would never make it to this appointment. Yungyang needed to transfer buses to make it to the complex. She successfully caught her first bus but then missed her second. She was on the wrong side of the street and so the bus didn't stop after she attempted to flag it down. The district later stated that it would have been against their policy to stop as it encourages pedestrians to run into oncoming traffic. Yungyang sent a text to the leasing agent at 1:39 p.m. to let them know that she'd be running late and that she'd arrive around 2:10 p.m. Whilst Yungyang was waiting for the next bus, at around 2 p.m. a black Saturn Astra passed her at the bus stop. The car then did a U-turn and stopped where she was waiting at 2:03 p.m. After about a minute, she then got in the car and the car drove off. Her leasing agent then sent a text to her at 2:38 p.m, but Yungyang never responded. She was then reported missing that evening at 9:24 p.m. The local police department worked closely with the FBI to try and locate Yungyang. They eventually offered a reward of $50,000 to anybody who knew anything about her whereabouts. And her family arrived in the US on the 17th of June hoping to aid in the investigation. At first, the surveillance footage was too blurry for police to identify the number plate, but they identified 18 vehicles like the one in the video in the local area. One of these cars belonged to 27-year-old Brent Allen Christensen, who was a former PhD student at Illinois University. He was in an open marriage with his wife that he married in 2011 and a girlfriend. Investigators soon interviewed Brent, who said he couldn't remember where he was the day of Yungyang's disappearance. Further analysis of the CCTV footage revealed that the car's sunroof was similar to Brent's and it had a cracked hubcap which was noted on Brent's car as well. Investigators also noticed that the passenger's side door appeared to have been cleaned to a more diligent extent than the other vehicle doors. Brent's girlfriend was so certain of his innocence that she agreed to wear a recording device to try and clear his name. But Brent confessed to his girlfriend whilst on a memorial walk for Yungyang that he had taken her to his apartment and held her there before murdering her. He also admitted to being a serial killer. And supposedly Yungyang was his 13th victim. Brent was found guilty and charged to a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Sadly, due to the severity of the crime, it was not possible to retrieve Yungyang's body. And no other victims of Brent Christensen have been found. Be sure to follow for more true crime.
Warning, today's gruesome case does involve cannibalism. On July 30th, 2008, 22-year-old Tim McLean was on the bus heading from Edmonton to Winnipeg. He had been working at a carnival and was heading home. His coworkers tried to pitch in to get him a plane ticket, but he didn't want to take their money, so he took a Greyhound. At one of the stops, towards the end of the trip, a man named Vincent Lee got on the bus. When he first boarded, he sat at the front of the bus, but eventually he went towards the back and sat next to Tim. Tim had been on the bus for 19 hours at this point, so he was asleep and he had headphones in. The man next to him showed no emotion, was just sitting there, then all of a sudden pulled out a large hunting knife. He began stabbing Tim in the throat and chest. Passengers could hear him screaming, and they began to panic as well once they realized what was going on. The driver would end up pulling over and letting everybody off the bus. But they would leave Tim on the bus with Vincent. By the time they had pulled over and stopped, he had been stabbed between 50 to 60 times. A truck driver had been driving by and saw the passengers and the bus, so he decided to pull over. He got a crowbar and a hammer and bolted the door shut so Vincent couldn't escape. The driver hit a button to immobilize the bus as well. Meanwhile, Tim is still being attacked on the bus. It was said that a few of the men tried to get on the bus to see if they could stop him, what have you, but he just began trying to slash at them with his knife, so they got off of it. Of course, authorities were called, but this was about in a time span of 4 hours until they got there. During this time, Vincent was said to have decapitated Tim. He displayed his head for everyone to see, then dropped it on the floor of the bus. He then ate some of Tim's flesh and organs. When authorities did recover Tim's remains, they were never able to find his eyes, part of his heart, and pieces of his flesh. Along with the flesh, the authorities believe that he ate these other two parts because they were never recovered. When they ended up arresting him, they found Tim's nose, ear, and tongue in his pocket. Vincent was charged with second-degree murder, and while in custody, he was evaluated and diagnosed with schizophrenia. And when it came time for court, the judge had to decide on Vincent Vincent's state of mind when he killed Tim. Vincent would plead not criminally responsible due to his mental illness. They would go over the horrific details of Tim's murder, including that his body parts was put into plastic bags. The court would also hear from many psychiatrists on the whole argument of, was he criminally responsible? Was he not? Was this a psychotic episode or was it not? And one of the big things that came up was that he was having auditory hallucination, aka hearing voices, and that he believed it was God's voice telling him that Tim was a force of evil and he needed to execute him, and that Tim could come back to life, so that's why he mutilated him. The judge would rule that he was not criminally responsible for this crime. After this, he was sent to the Selkirk Mental Health Center. Then in February of 2017, he was given a full discharge, which meant that he now had no criminal record and he was also given a new name.